Hey guys, doing a weekly update here. Just cleaning up the shop before I head home. Doing some end of week maintenance. Haven't done any testing recently just because everything's been so good. I've been a little lazy. I think I'll be alright, but I definitely need to do some testing next week. One of the pains in the ass, especially if you don't have the auto top off system. See that fill line there? And there's the pump chamber over there. That can be a real pain in the butt if you don't have an auto top off. But I definitely want to say things are growing. Things are doing well. Then now keep in mind, end of the day, lighting changes and things of that nature, but that one's growing. The war coral is doing much, much better. Let's see if I can get a better shot of him. You can see the little tentacles kind of coming out there. Just doing really well. Now there's another big side of this mushroom coral on the other side. The green stars are doing amazing. The Sunny D's are just growing like crazy. And it's official. They've encrusted on the lava rock, and I have growths on the underside. So I'm excited to really show when it spreads out and really encrust the rock. I want to prove that you can grow corals on lava rock, and you can be successful with lava rock. Of course, I got my Goniopora flower pot growing like crazy. And one thing I will say, one of the only challenges, if any, and I've heard of other reefers running into this, but with this lava rock, one of the things I did run into for sure is these white sea sponges. They're not as invasive, to my knowledge. There's not a lot of information on them as, like, say, Aptasia. They're not going to necessarily kill anything. They can go nuts if you don't just simply scrape them off the rock every once in a while. That's what I do. I just take the cleaner brush, just scrape them off, and they float away. But they do help with the filtration. From all my research that I've done, they are filtering quite a bit in this tank. So if you can't beat them, might as well join them. I don't see them being a problem, so I just kind of let them be. And I haven't had any casualties. I haven't really added anything to this tank. I think we're pretty much right where we want to be. With a couple, I'd say there's 4 damsels in there: cinnamon clown, Scopus tang, Niger trigger, and back there under the seashell you can see a sunrise dotty back. And of course we have our sand sifting sea star there on the sand bed doing a great job. Got a bunch of crabs, and we have a cleaner shrimp. I just don't see any reason to really mess with it right now. I kind of want to focus on the corals, getting them growing, especially that Sunny D. I love that Sunny D. It's just doing amazing. Just beautiful colors. I love that one too, that green one there. And of course I have this colony coming back of the super orange. Kind of crazy. I haven't seen this color before. It's like green in the center and orange on the sides on some of them. Kind of cool. But what I will say is I think the last addition would be a lionfish. I have always wanted a lionfish. I hear a dwarf flying fish calling my name. I'd love one. I tell you what, without a doubt, you can grow softies under a Tunes 8850. No problem. And it's a bummer that these were discontinued, and I couldn't get the replacement light because that would be fantastic. I think there's one left on Marine Depot, last I checked, full price. But these max specs are pretty amazing lights. They're doing really well. They're 35 watt full spectrum, and they'll grow. It seems like they'll grow hard corals. Of course, mounted close to the surface of the water, but nonetheless, if you want to do it, you can make it happen. Um, and I might be starting some new spin-off series as time progresses. I'm still slowly eBay shopping for the rest of the pieces of the 72 gallon, and I hope to be cycling it, at least getting it cycled. I'm going to cycle it for a long time before I add fish or corals, just because of budgetary reasons. And boy, I'll tell you what, I want to talk about these Rosemonts. I love these Rosemont wave makers. Now, I don't have as much experience as some of the advanced reefers out there with the Ecotech MP40s and MP10s and those super expensive guys. I like the concept of the gyres. They look really cool. The only DC pump I have thus far is that Innovative Marine is Whisper Quiet. But the one big thing I will tell you is these AC pumps are efficient and they are quiet. If you're familiar with the Saisei Syncra pumps, they're reliable, they're long-lasting, they're durable. Most of them can run dry, no problems. These Rosemont movers, I got eBay, brand new. They're the M1500s. So each one's moving 1,500 gallons per hour, and I got them just on a crazy sale, $45 for both of them, brand new. Freaking insane! I tell you what, guys, if you're on a budget, you have kids, a family, you want to do reefing, don't give up on it. You might be able to eBay shop the heck out of it and have some pretty good success. The next huge update on the 72 gallon, I'm going to be going over how I saved a ton of money and how I got some crazy deals to set up this tank that saved me, hundreds, if not by the end of it, thousands of dollars, just by being smart, being savvy, being patient, waiting for the opportunity to jump on a great deal, and you can find amazing deals. And just for example, like the Reef Octopus Essence 130 goes for around $300. I got it for $100 on eBay. It had never been used. It just open box. The Sump and the Saisei Syncra, I believe it's I want to say it's a 5.0, and that I got for, I believe, like 130. So the pump and the sump for 130. Wow, crazy, And now, of course, I waited till these guys went on clearance. We got all three of the original C35 F max spec Celestials for, I believe it was just over $400 for, I believe this is a 4-foot spread here. So you can't really go wrong with that. And now, of course, this is a work tank, so it helped being in good standing with the boss here. He helped sponsor the lighting, helped provide that for the work tank. So I mean, there's avenues you can take. Look, I got this tank donated from a client, donated, free. The tank was free. It has its quirks. It's older, has some scratches here and there, but you know what? When I clean up the glass, you don't even know. And we painted the stand. I think all in all, maybe we spent like $30 on whitewashing, staining the stand. I built my own trim, my new bracing, and converted this old, wood veneer look 55 long into a modern looking tank. There were some water spots on the top, so we decided to, instead of going rimless, we couldn't get them off. We just went with this cool tile edging and made it our own. And I used glow paint, so it kind of glows under the cob lights, chip on board lights. So that's the one. The one thing that bugs me is, of course, underwater light. You're not going to see the nice refraction of the water surface and that shimmer, but that's okay. It as long as the corals are loving it, the corals are doing fantastic under this light. And of course, they have some ambient light coming from the C35 full spectrum Celestials. And of course, we did a painted background, two-tone painted background. But if you're a budget reefer, tell me how you do it. I mean, like for example, don't let anyone tell you have to drill the glass. This works just fine. My new tank obviously came drilled. I traded a bunch of, when I got out of the frog hobby, I traded a bunch of frogs and stuff and I got the bow front tank for free and it was pre-drilled. That's great. It's definitely something to consider, because then you don't have to worry about having extra things on board to prevent overflows or flooding, like a aqua lifter. So if the power goes out, the siphon doesn't break, or you don't have to calculate. If I do my own custom inflow, here in the tank with a glassware piece here, you don't have to calculate the distance that this has to be higher than the box, so that when the siphon breaks, it'll just start all over again. You don't have to calculate that stuff. But if you're on a limited budget, and this came with one of the other tanks I bought, go for it. They tell you not to use flexible hosing. Whatever, screw them. I use it just fine. $10 for the whole damn hose, some clamps. Now, I only put clamps in areas that are critical for me to remove them if necessary. All the other places have a lot of glue or epoxy. They're not coming apart. I had a leak. I don't want to take the whole system apart. I was on a budget, on a time frame. I took some Fluval Aquatics epoxied that shit together, no problem. And then of course the PCV glue, is all right there. So I can't remove certain sections, but then you'll notice there's a clamp up there. There's a gate valve. So there's some things worked in there. You can always add to it. That's what I love about tubing versus hard piping, is you can easily add, remove things. Unlike, obviously if you have unions and you fork out the cost of all that, but nonetheless, there's nothing wrong with going with a DIY inflow for your return. Just go get some hardware, some 3/4 inch inner diameter vinyl tubing, hard vinyl. It'll work great. It'll do fine, no problem. It just have some spare. I'm actually gonna add a union. They sell on eBay a union that you can buy for vinyl, and it's quieter because a lot of guys, even though they die hard tubing, I have nothing wrong against it. I have nothing against it. Power to you. But even the hard tubing die-hard fanatics will have or hard vinyl from the return pump to their hard plumbing to cut down on noise. So I mean, and look, I still have some wiring I got to do, but limited time, limited budget. I tell you, you can do it. Don't give up on your dreams of having a reef tank just because someone tells you have to do it a certain way. Now, there's definitely some advice you can glean off of people. I'm not telling you to not listen to people at all, but that's the whole purpose of it being a hobby. You embrace it. You make it what you want it. People tell you, oh my God, why do you have these toy dinosaurs in here? Oh, whatever. Shut up. I like that. I like the extinction look going in here. And if I want to do that, or if I want to add a sunken ship, who cares what people think? Ultimately, it matters what you think. People, even in the flooring industry, get this notion that the DIY network is going to come into your house and judge your style. Oh my God, look at how awful that is. Those colors don't match. Now, there is some degree of design that I can assist you with, but the reality is you're the one that has to live with it on a day-to-day basis. So you can tastefully make it your own, Now, I definitely think there are some things that are egregious and eyesores, but I'm never going to, if that's someone's thing, I'm not going to go out of my way to shun them or push them down. If the hobby didn't allow for change, the hobby would never grow. If the hobby didn't allow for experimentation, the hobby would never grow. So, if you want to experiment, try something new. Try lava rock instead of your standard dry rock, and source it the best you can. If you're worried about it leaching stuff into the water, try no sandbed. Try sandbed. I love sandbeds. I like the way they look, but if you don't like sandbeds, no problem. Make it your own. Anyone who is trying to tell you it shouldn't be a certain way is just a fool, and they're not open to change. They're narrow-minded. So have an open mind, and if you see some obviously doing something that's just completely common sense and they're error, yeah, you could point that out, but don't necessarily crush them. Kind of what I've been told by a pastor one time that made a lot of sense is, and I'm going to butcher it, I'm going to try. Love without truth is hypocrisy, but truth without love is brutality. So try and give people truth when they need it, in love and not brutality. I know it's fun sometimes to crush people or put them down, but in the reef hobby, you're gonna have a much better time if you're just open minded. You know, the reality is it's a fun hobby because you're always learning, you're always growing. There's so much more that we don't know. No one is 100% expert on any of this stuff. So, hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope this was informational. Peace out.